Hello, listeners, and welcome to Pathfinder, the podcast where we talk to experts to help students explore different majors and discover different paths forward. Today, we're focusing on computer science and applied AI. We're joined by Dutta, a senior data analytics architect at a FANG company. He's built large-scale data and AI systems across supply chain and retail, including tools that help thousands of employees access insights on their own. Thank you so much for joining us, Dutta.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So to start off, when students hear about computer science, they often imagine coding alone or building apps. How would you explain computer science and applied AI to a student who's starting to explore the field?
Honestly, probably 80% of the job is understanding problem statements. So it's a lot of human interaction, more than coding or building apps in silos. So it's a lot about what you're trying to solve, what's the business value that you're bringing out of it, in trying to solve it. So the why, essentially. A majority of the time you have to be able to put yourself in the person's shoes for whatever problem you're trying to solve and try to visualize a solution for that particular problem. So yeah, I would say to anybody starting out in this field, it's a lot more human interaction than building code in silo.
So you mentioned that a lot of the job requires understanding a problem. So what kind of problems do you solve in your job?
So my job is primarily backend. I'm a data analytics architect. So essentially it's a lot about building data products for solving internal needs. So in my specific scenario, like I work for supply chain. So it's a lot about like optimizing the supply chain with regards to supply or demand and building data products that help you assess those situations. I want to take a specific example. So like, let's say if you're familiar with self-service ad hoc reporting tools like Tableau or ThoughtSpots of the world.
Can you explain that to some people who might not know?
Absolutely. If you're familiar with the term called reporting and data analytics, you would see two very popular tools being used. One is called Tableau and one is ThoughtSpot, which helps people analyze data with low to no code. It's a comfort zone for analysts. Dissect data on the fly. Primarily, you can think of a much fancier version of your Excel sheets to dissect and understand your data and then present it to your leadership for some executive reporting. Now, that is what self-service reporting paradigm is about, essentially. One of the tools that I have helped build is an ad hoc self-service reporting tool for our own business. Instead of consuming out of the market products, we built something ground up for our company. The reason for doing it is because custom needs. Every business has their own custom needs. That's where figuring out the problem statements come into play. What you're trying to solve and how you're trying to solve it. The tools that exist in the market may be able to get you to 80% of what you need, but the remainder 20% is still there. So if you build something custom, you want to build custom to get value where it will give you that extra mileage for the remaining problem statement that you're trying to solve. If you're building out anything from ground up, you need to know why you're building it. So essentially in this scenario, let's say we are building a self-service ad hoc reporting platform. You're trying to solve problems for data analysts or business analysts who are trying to get to numbers or insights faster, and how you're then going to build it out is the remainder of the problem.
What made you personally interested in working with data and analytics?
Honestly, I am in this space from the beginning of my career, and I really love analysis. Even whatever I do in my own life, data is everywhere. So for example, from the time you are driving your car, you monitor your trip. You see what mileage you're getting if you're driving in sports mode versus an EV mode. Every decision that you make requires data. And if you're an investor, you're looking at the stock market, whether you're an options trader or you're investing in stocks, you look at the data every single time to make a decision of what to buy and when to buy it, when to sell it. Even if you want to send your kid to school, which district should you buy a house? Every single aspect of your life is driven by data. So I'm personally very fascinated because of that, and I was always fascinated with this data analytics space. I don't just implement it in my work, it's in every aspect of our life.
Another thing that I noticed that you wanted to talk about during this episode was you've helped build a universal semantic layer. And to be completely honest, I've never heard those words before. So for people like me, what is this and what problem does a semantic layer solve?
Semantic layer essentially is like, imagine like you are on a web application. Imagine you're clicking around a web-based reporting tool. A semantic layer is the layer that helps you answer the question that you're asking. Let's take the example of Viator or Expedia, or when you're clicking around in their web platform and you're trying to say, hey, I need to book a hotel for 3 nights, 4 days, party of like 2 adults, 1 kid, I have 2 pets, and my preference is I need to have a gym, it needs to have a view, maybe oceanfront or whatever you like. You're asking all these questions to a front end. That front end or web platform is actually having to respond to you back with an answer. How it responds back to you is the semantic layer. All these data, like what all hotels are out there in the zip code that you're searching, whether it has a view or not, everything is stored in your database. But when you're interacting with it in your front end, like hotels.com, bookings.com, or Airbnb, you want a quick response that needs to look back at the database based on the user preferences, or you're maybe typing onto your chatbot. So the translation that happens from the clicks that you do on the UI or the whatever you type it in your chatbot, there is a translation layer. It's either a human click or a question that goes in, and then you get an answer back in natural language, or you get an answer pre-filtered with destinations of your or hotels of your choices. So that's what a semantic layer essentially means. When we talk about a universal semantic layer, this is actually coming up in our data industry a lot. For example, imagine you are running a shipping company, or imagine like you are a USPS or a FedEx. You have to deal with your customer who you are delivering the product to. You have to deal with services, Amazons or Apples or Microsofts of the world, right, where you're picking up the product from. Then you have to coordinate your logistics route. Are you going to ship by air, sea, rail, or road? There will be components that are in-house. For example, FedEx, you control like the logistics part of it. But what you do not control is you have to know you're picking it up from Apple warehouse or Amazon warehouse, which is a third-party system. Now you're delivering it to a customer like you or me. So our address information are there. Then there is PI information, which you may not control. It may be controlled by whoever is your supplier, or you may control and keep it in your database and delete the information as it becomes irrelevant. So when we are talking about these many moving pieces, imagine you are just going to Amazon and placing an order. You know, I am going to get 2-day shipment through Amazon. It is going to get delivered by FedEx, and this is my tracking number. That's all that you are knowing as a customer. But behind the scenes, FedEx is receiving the order. It knows the order date, pickup date from this particular location, then coordinate this via road, or maybe a mix of road and rail and air, and even ship. And when I go to the customer doorstep, maybe I have to coordinate with USPS because for whatever reason, FedEx cannot deliver you to your door. So when we are talking about connecting these many dots, you cannot have if you were having siloed databases answering each of these single questions, you are talking about a multi-hop scenario. And for whatever reason, if there is any chink in that armor, you are affecting real-world experience of a customer, right? The concept of universal semantic layer is how could I build a connected ecosystem across all of these disparate data sources that could stitch this entire experience together and be able to answer any question. That's the concept.
So it seems like there are a lot of moving parts in your job, and there's so many complex parts that you have to balance. Is there ways that AI comes in and can help you reduce a lot of those tedious tasks that you need to do?
It does. And honestly, how I view the current AI revolution is essentially a lot of helper tasks is how I would like to call it. For example, like there is Claude Code, Roo Code, so many different kind of coding, or even with ChatGPT. But the advantage that we get is like the barrier to coding has lowered. So if you know the question that you're trying to ask, or if you know your prompts, you can probably get to coding by yourself, even if you have never ever coded. Maybe you will not be able to gut check or fact check the code that is written, but if you are willing to trust a system-based code, you can test it out from a human perspective, right? Because you can test results at any given point in time. So essentially, where AI helps with a lot of this is planning. Like, for example, like, you know that, hey, I need to build this end-to-end universal semantic layer. These are my moving pieces. As a business analyst, you know that, correct? But then you can interact with an intelligent agent like a ChatGPT agent, or for that matter, use Claude Code to be able to explain that, hey, I need to build this out end-to-end. How do I do that? Case in point, I'm not sure if you guys use Postman. very, very commonly used for testing out API endpoints. But let's say, for example, one of my friends just stood up because we are not allowed to use Postman for whatever internal reasons. But you could literally say, I want this UI, this kind of an interaction, and tell it to the code, and it will generate it for you. And then you can test it out by, like, you have an A/B testing system by putting up Postman on one end and putting up this newly AI-generated app on the other side, and be able to see, like, hey, it is working, or where it is not working, and then keep on prompting back to make it better. So AI definitely helps take out a lot of those tedious pieces of code writing or maintenance or logging or error handling, all of those pieces, and plus accelerate your coding and help you do the testing as a human being.
What excites and concerns you the most about AI within your industry?
I mean, as of now, at least, I would say we are in a sweet spot of evolution. So at this point in time, everything is an accelerator. What could potentially become concerning would be when we truly reach the age of digital twins, which is like you have digitized end-to-end human processes and you're relying 100% on machine generated output versus having a human in the loop, because one is like cybersecurity will be a big concern. B, if you think about the jobs or the evolution, while we always say that, hey, humans are going to evolve to use AI and use that as an accelerator, but again, we are talking about a human in the loop who is using AI as an accelerator. So if you are talking about 100% digitized human processes, which for surely are going to come, there will be concerns in the geopolitical landscape, plus concerns around cybersecurity that needs to get addressed as well. So at that point in time, those will be probably majorly concerning. But at least as of now, I think we are in a very, very sweet spot of evolution.
So many of our listeners are high schoolers, and they're trying to understand the different fields that are available in the careerscape. So for high schoolers interested in computer science, data, or AI, what would you recommend they start learning or exploring right now?
I'd say everybody should be a prompt engineer. So essentially, and that's kind of the sweet spot of our industry at this point in time. Like you can play around with Claude Code or ChatGPT, whatever you like to use, and build your own stuff, build your own website, build your own, or edit your own Instagram feeds and whatnot, right? Whatever you are into, right? There is a ton of things that you can start exploring, get comfortable with the technology. See how it is helping you. Like if you're wanting to build your own startup, or for that matter, like startup doesn't need to be so complex. Imagine like you're just owning your own music gig for your own Instagram feed and stuff like that, right? So you can use AI as your idea bouncing board. You can use it for your code generation. So get comfortable being a prompt engineer for sure. Be comfortable with owning your own data and be able to validate it, because a lot of time, like I said, futuristically, there will be 100% digitized processes down the line. So how do you make sure that you are getting what you want? So fact checking, essentially, that is very, very key. So data analysis is super important. A lot of software engineering tasks are getting automated, as you have seen. But at the same time, you would have seen like data engineering, data pipeline building is still very, very core to the industry, because that's the backbone, which probably you would never ever want to trust 100% to AI, right? So if you are into the field of computer engineering, I would say like don't feel like data engineering is like a back-end kind of a job. So that is gonna be there to stay, so you can focus around that as well, plus be comfortable being a prompt engineer.
And to wrap this conversation up, I have one final question that I ask to all of my guests. If you had the power to rewind time and go back to your high school years, what piece of advice would you give to that person?
What I would say is work on your niches, any skills that you primarily have. If you're a poet, if you are into music, work and nurture that, because honestly, what's going to survive in the future is original content creation. That's not something that AI can do, at least yet, unless and until you reach AGI. So I would probably give that advice to my younger self or anybody else, that always focus on your niches and work on your original content creations.
Thank you so much, Dutta, for joining us today.
Absolutely.
And sharing how computer science and applied AI can create real-world impact. To our listeners, we hope this episode showed that tech careers are not just about writing code, but they're also about helping people make better decisions. Also, make sure to check out Dutta's LinkedIn in the description below to learn more about him and his career. And thank you so much for tuning into Pathfinder, and until next time, keep exploring and stay curious. Bye-bye.